dispersing its penchant for politicized subversion to all those taking up the task. As mutinous relation to imposed ontology, blackness enables and conditions the inhabited spirit of subjective abolition. Transness, always shadowed by its echolalic blackness, as this book will demonstrate, unfixes gender from essentialist moorings and posits itself precisely as that unfixation, as a departure from, without the presumption of a stable destination, or indeed a departure that itself destabilizes destinational desires. This transness is endemic to a genealogy that has at its foundation the fundamental critique of the capaciousness of man, or man, and woman, and as such, the critique of the regulative regime of normative gender and categorization. Feminism, which is to say transfeminism, which is more to say black feminism, is an agential and intentional undoing of regulative gender norms, and further, the creative deconstructing of ontological, racial, and gender assault. A kind of gender deconstruction, an unraveling that unstitches government means of subjectivation, feminism as the reiterative, ungendered quotidian process of how not to be governed and given from without. That is, feminism marks here the vitiation of imposed racial and gender ontologies that then demands an abolitionist modality of encountering the racialized gendered world. What you hold in your hands is not another treatise on how we might righteously rail against harms done to an already known us. What we have come to name our bodies, though, is not the only way we can or should think ourselves possible in the world. Our subjectivity, my preferred though still imperfect term, indexes the amalgam of the various ways that we engage sociality, an engagement that is not determined wholly by or confined to the surface of corporeality. And if aspects of the body have come to be that which are formed by violent forces, it is necessary to find liberation in the aspects that are not confined to the body. It is necessary to find liberation in the aspects of subjectivity that exceed and ooze out of the body. And this ooze, this uncaughtness, is variously inflected and named, at least in part, by the black, the trans, and the feminist. Additionally, this facilitates the dissolution of the things we may have come to regard as quite dear, namely our given and even reclaimed identities. It has come to a point, it seems to me, where many of us have crafted as virtuous the mere fact of holding steadfast to the historically maligned identities we hold. Many of us have come to doubling down on racial identification or gender identification and expression on the grounds that such identities have historically and contemporarily been expunged from the province of positive valuation. There is little efficacy in clutching the purported fact, which is not a fact, unmediated and transparent, that one is right or righteous or unceasingly wise because they do not hold in contempt their racialized blackness or their cis womanhood, for instance, categories that have been and are marginalized. That is not what this is all about. These identities are at base hegemonic bestowals and will thus have diminished liberatory import in the final analysis. Indeed, we cannot get to the final analysis, which I offer as an abolitionist analysis, with these identities if such an abolitionist terrain is given definition by way of the instantiation of the impossibility of violence and captivity. Black transfeminism cannot abide such classificatory violences, so it urges us also to abolish the categories we may love, even if they have not always been received well. If the aim of the radical project of black transfeminism is abolition and gender radicality, which is the case I will be making, it is imperative to grapple with what that actually means. We cannot half-ass abolition, holding on to some of the things we didn't think we would be called to task for giving up. If we want freedom, we need to free ourselves, too, of the things with which we capture ourselves. The project at hand is interested in a thoroughgoing conception of freeness, and it seems like black transfeminism, to call on Saidiya Hartman, makes everyone freer than they actually want to be. When the white woman or the black trans person or the queer identified person comes at such a project with their indignation about me, us, black transfeminism, trying to take away the very things they have worked so hard to achieve, we are surely to meet them with a certain level of kindness as an ethical attentiveness to how such trauma